Tell the truth and shame the devil. Ain't that what the elders used to say? Well, and shaming the devil. I'm going to tell my truth. Because the devil and my story was upset for one, for me exposing him, and for two, for me not being accepting of him. This I've come to realize. See, the story go like this. Great risings. Great risings. The story went something to the lines of these lines. He wanted to know what was going on with me in his absence. He was not or did not behave or act or consider in a mature manner the latter of the situation, which was out of 14 years, I never missed a phone call. He got letters and pictures regularly. He was able to go commissary or to the store, as they say, regularly. His children were taken care of without him having to ever worry about a roof over their head, clothes on their back, or love to carry them through. Now, of course, this is just the type of mother that I am, right? But not a wife. So he began to get consumed with what was I doing in his absence. And so he went on an investigation. And he saw that in his absence, I partied here and there. I took trips here and there. You know, I got up with some of my friends here and there. I still maintained a social life. Not a romantic, but a social life. And that made him unhappy. But he still kept digging because he was just so hell-bent on trying to find this dirt. Because even with me having a social life, he didn't like it, but it still seemed too good to be true. And in comparison, that just added on to whatever it was that we were going through. Because he wanted to know what was going on. And I honestly felt that was irrelevant. But in retrospect, I see that that was all a part of a grander ploy for him to plan his escape route, for lack of better word. Because if what I had done and contributed to the relationship to date wasn't enough for him to see the woman that I am, nothing will ever be. So when I look back, he never needed a reason to leave. He came to that conclusion within himself because he also knew that it was fucked up. He couldn't face who he was. He couldn't face the idea of, you know what? After all that me and her been through, it's fucked up that I really don't want to be here. I don't want to assume the responsibility of man of the household. I don't want to be engulfed in the relationship. I don't want to be here. And it's fucked up because I led her to believe this the whole time. So what better way for me to leave than to try to find something on her? Because if I can get something on her, then that justifies me leaving. Not just to my ego, but to everyone else that's watching, that knew or that assumed that we would be together. And they knew and or assumed that we would be together because of our history. Because we was always together. No matter what the fuck I did or no matter what the fuck I didn't do, we remained together. And so rightfully so, people would assume that we was gonna stay together. But I can't look like the fucking devil. I can't look like the culprit. I can't look like the fucked up nigga or the fucked up person that I actually am. No, I can't do that. So I need to find a way to make it seem like it's her. And so he began to exaggerate stories to his friends, fabricate stories to his friends, to his family members, and perhaps even to possibly significant others that he was entertaining at the time. But that's neither here nor there. And he fabricated these stories because he needed to, at the end of the day, make peace with him being a piece of shit. So while I'm over here reasoning with myself, saying, well, you know what? If he don't want this and if he don't want that, then it's okay because. But let me tell you something in fucking reality. That is taking the high road. And I'm really trying to take the high road because if I take the low road, it will leave me in a very ugly bit of space. And I don't want to continue to give anybody any unnecessary points for having me in such a space. I don't want that for me. So I have to take the high road. But in reality, slightly above the high road that I'm taking, he's just straight up a piece of shit. And whoever is a piece of shit in your life, you need to come to terms with the fact that they're a piece of shit. And there's no amount of love or respect or consideration or acts of kindness that you can do that's going to change them from being a piece of shit. I have reasoned with myself long enough on behalf of this man because I just could not understand what went left. You know what I know? This is what I know. That if I had involved myself with someone romantically, that would not have made a difference in the status of our relationship now. I could have been with somebody else because one thing you know about these niggas gonna be where the fuck they wanna be and they don't give a fuck who around or who's what the situation is. If this is something that they want, if you are something that they want, they're gonna be around, they're gonna stay around, they're gonna come around. So it doesn't matter, and it didn't matter if I involved myself with someone romantically or not. He already had his mind made up that he didn't want to be here. And when I had these conversations with my girlfriends and my sister-in-law, they would try to tell me different. No, he's just going through something. No, he's just going through something. No, he just... And I let that ride for what I feel like an awfully long time. When intuitively I knew better. But I kept reasoning because I was in love. I did not want the years of resources that I put into this particular person to go unaccounted for. And I felt like it was the right thing to do because I felt further obligation to give him a chance at redemption, at making things right with himself. As long as he made things right with himself, then things will be okay with us and with the family. But a aha moment. He didn't make things right with himself. I don't think that he ever did make things right with himself. I think out of all that fucking time he did, he actually didn't do the time. The time did him. Because if you are completely taken away from everything you know and everyone you know for 14 years, you have nothing left to do but stand on who the fuck you are. And at some point, you have to come to terms with who you are. And you have to look yourself in the mirror. You have to make decisions. You have to make decisions that who you are at that fucking point. Are you going to continue to be that person and stay in those similar situations? Or are you going to not be a victim of your circumstances, make the significant changes you need to make for you so that in the long run, the seeds that you are now sowing in that garden can be fruitful? Accountability, by accepting all of this shit that he was giving me. I was enabling him. I didn't know it. I didn't know it. Intuitively, yeah, I knew. But, and I know after but is bullshit, but it's real shit. But when you in love, you keep holding on to hope for your other. And you keep giving them maps and you keep giving them all the resources that you see that they need to get through to become better. Because you've been there. You've been at a low point before. At least in my situation, I've been at a low point. When that motherfucker left me pregnant with that motherfucking baby, I had to decide right then and there if I wanted to continue my life that way. Let me tell you something. I was on the motherfucking brink of abortion because I was so in love with me and who I was as a young woman. See, thank goodness I didn't let him break this. He may have broke my heart, but he didn't break this. But I was so in love with myself and who I was as a woman and who I was in that life that when that decision came to me that I would be a parent again, but that he would be an absent parent, I said to myself, you know what? This is not what I want for my life. I do not want to be a statistic, another black hood girl with no father around. Because I'm better than that. I deserve better than that. I deserve more than that. And again, in speaking to my loved ones, they said to me, regardless if you may be a statistic in the government society, you are not the only statistic and you are not alone. My grandmother, 86-year-old Barbara Briggs, took my hand and said, baby, let me tell you something. I know it's hard. I had 6 headed kids that I had to take care of on my phone, on my own, because the father was, in and out. And I know it's not easy. But I need for you to know that you're not alone. And we're going to do this together. And it's going to be our baby. So, yeah, you're birthing the baby. But we're going to be the nation that raised the baby. We're going to raise him up. And I don't want you to feel trapped. And I don't want you to feel like your only way of survival is to kill off the life you have in you. That's not it. You bring forth that life because God has chosen you to be a vessel. You bring forth that life You're sowing seeds now, granddaughter. Let your harvest be fruitful. I could not imagine my life without my bookie. I'm so grateful for the elders. You need to pay homage to your elders. Excuse my emotion. I'm getting a little emotional. But, excuse me. I'm saying all that to say is that I don't know when he decided that he no longer wanted to be a part of this. I don't know when. But I know that he did. And he did everything in his power to manipulate the situation and change it around and try to make it seem like it's me. It was my fault that things didn't work out the way they should have. But let me tell you something, boys and girls. And the famous words of Tupac Shakur when he was beefing with Big. You could tell people what the fuck you want to tell them. But you and I know what's going on. If it makes him feel better for me to be the devil in his story, I am fine with that now. Before I wasn't. Because I felt like everything that I have done was on the line. But now that I have a new day, now that I'm progressing forward more frequently in my healing process, I could look back in retrospect and point some things out that wasn't right. And when I would call his family for help, it was exposing him. It was exposing the lies that he had told them to date. He didn't like that. But I didn't know at the time I was exposing him. I was just looking for help because I just did not know how to deal. All of my chakras was unaligned. I was beginning to break down emotionally and even physically. Physically, I have proof, written proof, that I had begun to break down because he had me in fucking circles. Can you believe that? He had me in fucking circles trying to get the gist of what I did wrong. Because ultimately, in the beginning, I did feel like it was me. It was me. It was me. What did I do or what I didn't do? What didn't I do? Did he need me? Did he need, for those of you who had experiences like myself, you know, you tend to blame yourself. And at this point, I could be wrong. Maybe this is a contradictory statement, but I don't believe it had anything to do with self-esteem. It just had mostly to do with the way that I was loving him. As if he was my husband. He wasn't my husband. He didn't make me an honest woman. He didn't make me a wife. And I don't regret that. I do not regret that. I'm just saying that this is the shit that happens when you involve yourself with a narcissist and you choose to stay. This is what happens when you wife niggas. This is what happens. That I downplayed every single part that I did play for years. Simply because I just thought that's just what you do. I'm the woman. Like, okay, we're partners, right? We're partners. This is my man. I love him. And for the early parts of our relationship, we had our trials and tribulations, but for the most part, we ended up okay. We always made it through. And so, when he's in a tough situation, if he's in a tough spot, I'm going to do what I'm supposed to do as his partner, and I'm going to help him through it. Now, everything that I did was did out of love because I was truly in love with this person. I was in love. And so I'm not trying to throw it up in anyone's face as if I did him a favor. At the same time, I'm not going to downplay this shit like my role was that insignificant, because it wasn't. I played a very major role in that man's life. The thing is, back to the aha moment, he didn't come to terms with himself. He didn't come to terms with who he really is. And so he always kept up a fucking facade. And he always fooled people because he was so charming. And he was just so dope and so social and so outgoing and just... Yeah. And so overall, when I look over everything, I can breathe again knowing that it actually, in reality, was not me. And it wasn't ever me. Or my fault. It wasn't ever my fault. The relationship had been one-sided for years. And you know what? That may have been a norm at that time. Maybe it's still a norm for you. It's not a fucking norm for me anymore and the woman that I've become. I'm not carrying the bulk of the weight in any fucking relationship, any situationship, any friendship. I am not. Bitch, nigga, you are going to reciprocate the energy I give to you, or you can deal with me not being a part of your life or your circle, point blank and period. I'm not taking shorts for nobody no more. I don't have anything to do with pharmacists or distribution of pharmaceuticals anymore where I have to calculate and take shorts for anyone. I'm not fucking doing it. Now everything is energy based because I'm on this spiritual journey, and I've been on this spiritual journey for years. I've been on this spiritual journey even when he got caught up, even when I was pregnant, even when with my first child. I've always been on a spiritual journey. I just had to find my way. You know, when you on this journey, you know sometimes you fall short or sometimes you go astray. You know that. Okay, so I had to find my way. So here I am in this process of finding my way, because what better time now to find my way than in his absence, because I got all the time in the world. Because my schedule now is minus him. So everything is taking care of these kids, working, paying bills, trying to find some type of social balance so I don't go fucking crazy. And in between all of that, I have to have time for myself. And in that time I have for myself, I am indebted and going into my journey, my spiritual walk. So I was able to come to terms with myself in that time. And I was able to appreciate and understand the woman that I was becoming. And as a strong, independent woman, it is not fair that those same qualities that he leaned on and depended on, that I now be judged by them. That he can honestly come to terms with himself and say, you know what, you are just too independent for me. It seems like you don't need me for anything. Which, if there's any men watching, if you say that to yourself, then you need to come to terms with the fact that you're full of shit. And that is just the excuse. It's another excuse to go, to run from your rites of passage into manhood, to run from responsibility, to run from the cards that you've been dealt. Because I don't care how independent a woman is, it is always better with a partner. I was there for that motherfucker all them years, and he could not even be there for me 1 year. The whole fucking lopsidedness of the relationship was me carrying a fucking relationship on my back. And the one time that I needed him to be there for me, he fucking couldn't. And I'm nowhere near talking about finances. In the famous words of Whitney Houston, it's not right, but it's okay. I'm gonna make it anyway. Pack your bags up and leave. Don't you dare come running back to me. Because as I progress, and every day it gets better. I don't care if I may have a day or a moment of a setback, it catapults me into keep going forward. One of the things that helped me, and it do help me right now, is this fact. This fact. He can be with one woman. He can be with many women. Hell, he could be with a man. But he will never, ever, ever meet or run into or be with another me. That won't happen. And that's a fact. And as these epiphanies come along, this is when I'm going to hit y'all. I'm going to stop trying to think of times or come up with times when, oh, I should do a live. I should do a live. When it just hit me, I'm just going to go with it and do it. Yeah. Because it feels right. It doesn't feel forced. It feels right. It feels right. And I'm going to finish getting myself together because I have to get ready to go. Thank you for listening. We'll get up again soon.